You might be sabotaging your career. My name is Kimberly Brown-Harden, and I'm the Northwest Regional Coordinator from the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. I'd like to start off the webinar with a few announcements. This webinar is part of our online training series. To register for other webinars available for this theme or other trainings available from the Professional Development Office, please see the Indiana State Library's event calendar, which can be found on our website at www.in.gov/library. For a full list of our current in-person training menu, please see our continuing education website. The Indiana State Library has many ways we try to stay connected to library staff across the state. For weekly updates on upcoming trainings and to learn more about what's happening in libraries across the state, please subscribe to our weekly e-newsletter, The Wednesday Word. We also offer a blog which provides information about the Indiana State Collection, interview spotlights on library staff from across the state, and information about upcoming events at the Indiana State Library. If you have a question, just type it into the chat box on the upper left side of the screen. My colleague will be watching and will get to your question to me as soon as there's a good opportunity. There should also be time near the end for questions or discussion. This session is for 1 hour, so you will get one LEU for today for those who need it. At the end, please be patient. Please download the LEU after today's webinar. You'll click on the link, press download. You can then print it out and sign your name. There will also be in the chat box a link to today's survey. And we'd like for you to please take a brief survey about this webinar. It helps us to offer more trainings. If at any point during the webinar you experience any sound issues, please see the sound issues box just below the chat box on the left side of the screen. If there is a global sound issue, we will announce it in the chat box. If you are unable to resolve the sound issues you are experiencing, we are recording the meeting and you can watch it offline after the meeting has ended. Again, if there is a global sound issue, we will make an announcement in the chat box. So now let's get started with today's webinar. I want you to use your imagination right now. Think about somebody who's a no-holds-barred, tell-it-like-it-is type of person. Someone who doesn't believe in being politically correct. They say what they want when they want. I'd like to introduce you to Miss Manners. Think about the times when coworkers or bosses have done or said things to really irritate or annoy you. Miss Manners will say the things that you wish you could say or what you're thinking and do what you wish you could do. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk about the difference between manners and etiquette. What is etiquette? What is business etiquette? Why do we need business etiquette? Etiquette rules. We'll have a short Q&A with Miss Manners. We'll have an etiquette review, and like I said earlier, if there's time at the end, we'll have a short discussion or time for questions. At the end of this webinar, you'll be able to identify etiquette techniques and how to apply professional etiquette in the workplace. We hope this will be a refresher for you and remind you of the importance of etiquette. We'll talk about some examples and get perspective from Ms. Manners. I want to give you a disclaimer before we do get started. I am by no means an etiquette professional or etiquette specialist, and a lot of these things that you'll hear today are common sense. Actually, as I was going through this presentation, I realized that I am guilty of some of these things that we're going to talk about. So I just want to give you a heads up there. But we're all in this together, so we're going to learn. Before we get started, though, I want to kind of get the pulse of how everybody is feeling. Please take a quick second to answer this question for me. The answers are anonymous. The question is, how much do you currently know about etiquette? You know a lot, Are you average? Or what in the heck is etiquette? And I'll give you here just a minute or so. All right, looks like we've got a few more votes coming in. We'll take another couple seconds. Okay, looks like we have an overwhelming response to average. That's good. We got one person that said, "What is etiquette?" All right. Well, thanks everybody for participating in our poll. So now I'd like to talk about what is etiquette. It's a French word which means ticket. On important occasions, a ticket of instructions was issued to the masses detailing what they should do. The ticket enlists the rules of well-mannered behavior observed in a polite society. So in a professional sense, this includes behavior towards patrons and colleagues, which is in their best interest. Manners versus etiquette. So manners are polite behaviors that reflect an attitude of consideration, kindness, and respect for others. You may not have been taught how to make a proper introduction, but a kind person knows better than to belittle or embarrass another person in public or private. A well-mannered person also remembers to say please and thank you and doesn't interrupt others in the middle of a conversation. Etiquette is a code of polite conduct based on social acceptance and efficiency. So just as though we have traffic laws to create a smooth transportation flow and prevent collisions, we also have societal rules designed to facilitate positive human exchanges and reduce conflict. When you know the rules of etiquette for any given situation, it increases your comfort, confidence, and competence, and by extension, the ease and comfort of people around you. For example, once you know the rules of table settings, you won't have to wonder or worry or guess which bread and butter plate is yours or which fork to use when you're in the course of a meal. That keeps the focus of the meal where it should be, on the relationship. Understanding the why behind the rules helps people buy in and practice the protocols. I want you to also consider something else. Consider why a name tag is worn on the right instead of the left. That's because it's easier for others to see when you shake hands. As each person extends the right hand, the line of vision naturally follows past the length of the arm and hand to the placement of the name tag, which is on the person's right. And if you guys are viewing it with other folks right now, you're probably tempted to practice this, aren't you? So etiquette provides the form or structure within which good manners operate. Both are essential to effective human interactions. It's important to know what to do and when to do it. Let's shift now and talk about business etiquette. It's very similar. But business etiquette involves treating coworkers and employers with respect and courtesy in a way that creates a pleasant work environment for everyone. So far, this looks like good old-fashioned common sense, right? Many other foundational or interpersonal skills build upon common sense and respect. Business etiquette is also about building relationships with other people. Etiquette is not about rules and regulations, but it is about providing basic social comfort and creating an environment where others feel comfortable and secure. This is possible through better communication. So, what do you all think about when you hear the word etiquette? Do you think it's stuffy? You think it's fake, uptight, phony, insincere? Etiquette is a loaded word. Critics of etiquette consider it unimportant or small to the bottom line. Manners affect the way you do business, the way you are perceived, and in turn, the success of your library. Etiquette is just like any other game. If you know the rules, you can play successfully. So I see a couple people are giving their thoughts or opinions, perceptions about etiquette. Okay, sometimes it seems phony. The blueprint for societal manners is proper, morally correct, polite. Somebody said depends on how it's delivered. That is true. Somebody said etiquette can vary from culture to culture too. That is very correct. It's professional. It's important. Communication is necessary. Social niceties, what you should and should not do in public. Communication, very good. Good point. Somebody said it seems like a lost art. And somebody else said it's expected. Very good. You guys have some wonderful answers. So thank you. Thanks for participating. So business etiquette is a practical and profitable social skill that plays an important role in career success. It builds better relationships and increases professionalism. Employees thrive in a positive environment where everybody is treated with courtesy and respect. Employees who arm themselves with the principles of business etiquette distinguish themselves in the workplace and display a confident professional persona. Does any of this sound familiar so far? We've got combinations of respect, courtesy, common sense, and manners in these concepts. The things that we were taught as children, somehow we've either forgotten them or just decided that we were grown and we didn't have to use them anymore. The ability to successfully relate to and interact with managers, coworkers, and patrons is a key interpersonal skill that's crucial in today's library. I want to talk a little bit about some principles of business etiquette. Your behavior is the foundation where positive relationships are created. These principles should define all of your workplace or business relationships. The first one is respect. And that means more than just singing Aretha Franklin's R-E-S-P-E-C-T. And I bet you guys that now that's going to be stuck in your head today. But many people need to understand they need to treat supervisors, managers, and patrons with respect. However, we may not be as mindful of our relationships with peers and people that we supervise, those of you who are managers. Remember that work environments change quickly. You never know who you'll have to work with or for in the future. The best practice is to establish and maintain good working relationships with everybody you come in contact with. And as you can see, there's courtesy listed there, there's collaboration, and also non-aggression. Aggressiveness is strong and overpowering. It's often abusive behavior. It's considered to be rude, crude, and abrasive. Why does etiquette matter? Etiquette matters because employees who feel that they are mistreated in the workplace are less productive. A lack of respect and value for one another in the workplace really does have a cost. Etiquette matters because it can prevent turnover and disruption. Employees who are upset about the way they're treated in the workplace will likely leave. A worst-case scenario, that employee may begin to act out and cause the disturbance in your department or your workplace. Just remember, nobody is perfect and no workplace is perfect. You might display proper etiquette, but the environment can still be disruptive or even toxic. You are responsible for you and your actions. You're not responsible for everybody else's. Employees may limit contact with peers who are disrespectful. It's generally best to treat everyone with courtesy and respect, no matter what position he or she holds, and that's from the janitor to the CEO. Now let's take a quick look about some contributing factors for unprofessional or rude behaviors. While I'd like to say that there is never an excuse for being rude or rude behavior, there are a few factors that can contribute to them. The first one is increased stress at work, longer hours at work. We have heavy workloads that are getting heavier and heavier. There's pressure to do more with less, and that's time and money. We have customer and patron demands. Some other factors are struggles with work-life balance, external triggers. Excuse me, it should be internal triggers. That's personal issues, health issues, finances, having some family troubles, family issues. There's a lack of understanding or sensitivity to diversity in the workplace. And diversity could mean age, gender, culture, work styles, sexual orientation, physical abilities, and perspectives. Depersonalization of communication. Does anyone know what that means? Does anyone know what depersonalization means? It means to deprive of individual character or a sense of personal identity. For example, somebody said you can't be you. That's very good. An example of that is a large corporation that depersonalizes its employees. It renders you impersonal. Somebody else, Victoria, said all electronic, and you touched on what I was getting ready to say. And an example of this is done through the extensive, almost exclusive use of email. Email and texting and other forms of online communication, it changes the way we talk to or not talk to each other. These factors can decrease business productivity as well as job satisfaction. So now that we know why, let's talk about how to build positive working relationships, and we'll talk about those skills. I call this the foundation, is communication. And these skills are, you want to be a good listener. Use verbal and nonverbal cues to demonstrate you are focused on what the other person has to say. You want to think before you speak. Consider what you want to communicate and choose your words carefully. Be mindful of how you speak. Is your voice raised? Are you talking with a harsh tone? Are you using profanity? If you speak like a professional, you'll be treated like one. Another one is don't interrupt. That goes without saying. If someone is talking, you don't want to interrupt them in the middle of the conversation. And avoid miscommunication. You do this by clarify by summarizing and repeating back what you heard. Now, this is not being a parrot, but really just trying to get understanding and clarity. And you want to ask questions if you don't understand what the person is saying. Communication again. Try to aim for face-to-face communication. Try to limit voicemail or email. I know email is sometimes preferred for documentation purposes, but try to limit it as much as possible. Be diplomatic. Emphasize the use of courtesy and respect in all communication. Our next skill is conflict resolution. You want to approach conflict as situation related as opposed to person related. In other words, you want to focus on the problem or the behavior, not the person. Be positive and goal oriented. Think about offering solutions and suggestions for fixing the problem. Be clear and specific. For example, if you're working with someone, you don't want to say, "Bob, I can't do anything with this report. It is all wrong. Fix it." Say instead, "Bob, the first quarter data was used, but we need second quarter data. Can you make that change to the report today?" Notice the difference between the two. On the first one, you're just telling that person that they're wrong. The second one, you're telling them in a nice way that, yeah, they made a mistake, and they're also telling them that you need it done today. You want to try to be proactive instead of reactive. Respond with solutions rather than complaints. Conflict resolution. Be slow to anger, especially with insignificant issues. If people think of you as cool-headed and rational, it adds weight when you do speak. Keep an open mind. Listen to the other person's point of view without interrupting or arguing, and strive for a win-win solution. Accept feedback, whether it's positive or negative. Try to accept both with poise and without becoming defensive. It speaks volumes about your professionalism. Never criticize a coworker or employee in front of others. And don't disagree in public. If you find yourself in a disagreement with someone, don't air your differences in public. Find a private location to discuss and find a neutral third party if necessary. I'm just looking at some of the comments here. Somebody mentioned they're not sure that conflict is always resolved, but it can be managed. That is very true. It goes back to we can agree to disagree, and then somebody said disagree agreeably. I like that. Because that is true. I mean, sometimes there is no resolution to conflict, But the thing is to try to be as professional and try to do it without belittling or about actually going in and having a full blown out war, so to speak. The next skill we'll talk about is support and appreciation. You want to credit and compliment your team in group projects. Speak well of your coworkers and acknowledge their accomplishments and skills. Never take credit for somebody else's work or somebody else's efforts. And acknowledge a coworker's birthday, their promotion, engagement, and also other like sad life events like, a death or if there's been a tragedy in their family. Such thoughtfulness leaves a lasting impression to the employee. So I want to show a few magic words here. How many times did our parents or our grandparents remind us to say please and thank you? These phrases aren't just for preschool. These phrases, words, and expressions are often forgotten in the workplace, but they make a difference when you do use them and use them consistently. The previous slide, of course, was about magic words, and I wanted to expand that just a little. Always say please, thank you, you're welcome, and I'm sorry. It may be considered old-fashioned, but it still applies. It's never offensive, often expected, and it's easy to do. It is an attitude, and it becomes an attitude. If you respect those around you, and they will return that respect. So here are a few etiquette rules for the workplace. And these are tips from Jacqueline Smith. She's a guest writer from the Business Insider to help get or keep harmony in the workplace. Now, I know our profession is a little more relaxed, so all of these may not apply, but we can take and apply some or most of these to have a better workplace experience. The first rule is stand up when you're being introduced. When you stand up, it gives the impression that you're interested and engaged in the conversation, and it also might help the person remember you. Use your full name. When making an introduction, always use your full name. If your name is difficult to pronounce, you can write the pronunciation on your business card. Try not to overdo thank yous. Limit the amount of times you say thank you in a conversation to 1 or 2 to avoid seeming needy or helpless. Stay off your phone. And I know we love our phones, but stay off your phone. Everybody has a phone with them now, but we don't want to pull it out in the middle of an introduction, a conversation, or a meeting. Try to avoid responding to email and text after the meeting is done. Say hi or hello to others in the workplace. By saying hello to others as you walk by, you're giving the impression that you are a friendly person who's easy to talk to. When you come into an office, say good morning. It sets the tone for the day. Also, when you leave, say good night or have a good evening to the office. That is always a nice touch. And send separate and timely thank you notes. Write and send your thank you notes within 24 hours of meeting with a person. If there are several people involved, make sure that the note is personalized. If time is critical, consider sending a thank you email rather than a written note. All right, so survey says, these are the top annoying behaviors at the workplace, and these results are from the staffing firm Office Angels. Receiving email from someone sitting 3 feet away. I am so guilty of that. Listening to voicemail over a speakerphone. Swearing at the computer. Playing music a coworker doesn't like. Loud talking. More than 30% of people surveyed by Harris Interactive said people talking loudly at work is one of their biggest pet peeves. And there's gossip. Sneezing and coughing in somebody's face or direction. So now I have another question for you guys. I want you to list, we have another poll here. I want you to list your top 5 annoyances in the workplace. I'll just give you here just for a few seconds here. Oh yeah, yes, good old Coltrane. His jazz is good. Oh, loud and touchy people, gossip, loud eating. Oh, long personal conversations. Ooh, backbiting. Laughter. Oh, you whistle. Coworkers who don't respond to emails and calendar invites. Profanity, yeah. Venting about anything and everything. Oh, that's a good one. Private conversations where a patron can overhear. Yeah, if a patron can overhear it, it's not a private conversation anymore. Oh, passive-aggressive behavior. Busybodies. Okay, you've got some good ones here. Well, let's go ahead and end this poll. Again, thank you all for participating. All right, so now it's time to ask Miss Manners. So these are a few things that we asked Miss Manners to help us with. So please feel free in the chat box to discuss these as we go along. So I would now like to introduce you to Miss Manners. This is the first time that she has been with us. So I will now turn the mic over to Miss Manners.
If you're in a cubicle, don't shout over the walls. You can throw things, but don't shout. Set your cell phone to silent or vibrate. No one wants to hear Beyonce all day. Ugh. If you play music in your workspace, be sure only you can hear it. Earbuds and headphones are your friend. Again, no one wants to listen to Beyonce with you. If you eat your lunch in the staff lounge, clean up your mess. Your mother nor the maid works here. If you do have a cleaning staff, be considerate of them. Don't eat someone else's food either. That is rude. If you put food in a shared refrigerator, put your name or initials on it with the date and remove it at the end of the work week. If you eat at your desk, avoid eating sardines, onions, pickles, and other food with strong odors that may go through the office. If I see you eat sardines, I'll take them and eat them in the lounge. Don't borrow items from a coworker's desk without permission. Not cool. If you do borrow with permission, return it in good working condition. Don't return a stapler with dried food and a staple stuck in it. I will hunt you down. Be on time. If you do get delayed, contact any person or group waiting for you. Allow extra time if you have to travel. Maybe do like me and call an Uber. No worries, no stress. I suppose that can get expensive though. Sharing professional information is great. Sharing gossip and overly personal information, not so much. Call me if you want a dish. Respect personal space. Don't stand too close or too far away from someone, especially when having a conversation. Respect my personal space. I may punch you hard. The standard North American comfort zone is 3 feet. Remember that communication zones differ in other cultures. Do your research if you're conducting international business. The office know-it-all? Don't be one. No one knows everything. Surveys show that the office know-it-all proved to be the biggest gripe among coworkers. Don't make sexist comments about a coworker's dress or appearance. Even if you're crushing on the hottest guy in the office, don't tell him he's hot. I personally get tired of getting lewd and sexist comments all the time. Yes, beauty can be a burden. Trust me, I know. Be discreet and compassionate when criticizing a coworker. Don't be a jerk or an idiot. It's not nice. So, your director has spinach stuck in his or her teeth. What would you do? You should tell them discreetly. Don't yell it out across the room.
All right. Well, thank you, Miss Manners. Does anybody have any questions or about anything that she talked about? Let's see, I saw a little bit of discussion going on in the chat box here. Somebody says, I am a librarian. I know a lot. Yes, I'm sure you do. When somebody says office harassment, what to do? That is a good question. If there is office harassment, you definitely want to take that to your supervisor or manager. After you've taken it there and it's still going on, you might have to get HR involved, or the next management level up from your supervisor or manager. Oh, yep, somebody says contact HR. And somebody says, I think that if you always go with the concept of how I'm being perceived, it helps with etiquette. That's a good point. Every organization should have policies for work behavior. Yes, they should. Ooh, somebody said unless the supervisor is the harasser. Yeah, if the supervisor is the harasser, then you definitely want to get the manager involved in, like somebody said earlier, HR. And that is true. Work behavior policies are not always enforced. That is true. And somebody made a point earlier about etiquette should come from the top. And yes, it should. And actually, these behaviors, a lot of your work behaviors, it creates your work culture. So yes, you would hope that your that management and administration, that they are exemplifying or demonstrating good workplace etiquette. Unfortunately, if they are not, you will have to be the one to display it. There's nothing that you can do to make your director or make your manager display good etiquette. If you're displaying it, then you just may have to set the example for them. Yes, always go high. Exactly. All right, let's do a quick etiquette basics. We'll do a review real quick. You want to exhibit a positive attitude and pleasant behavior. Use a firm handshake. Maintain good eye contact. You want to make appropriate introductions. You introduce someone by their title and their last name, for example, Ms., Mrs., Mr., or Dr., unless otherwise specified. Rise when you are introducing someone or you're being introduced. Be a good listener. Show common respect and consideration for others. Again, like I said, I know some of these do not apply to our profession, but in every profession, there's always room for courtesy, respect, manners, and professionalism. How to succeed at work. Here's just a few tips. Be willing to help. Show mutual respect. Compromise. Be on time. Dress professionally. Respect others' opinions. And teamwork. All right, now we have our last poll or last question. And this will show if you guys are paying attention. Name 2 etiquette rules that we talked about during this presentation. Oh, you guys were paying attention. Awesome. Good one. That's great. Very nice. So we'll go ahead and end the poll now. I want to thank you all for participating in these polls. So now we're at the point of the presentation. I tried to get your questions as they came up. So now's the time if you have questions or if you want to have a discussion, and we can talk about it at this point, if anybody has anything. Oh, somebody said, how do you move from average to better etiquette? My recommendation, if you want to, if you move from average to better, is to do the things that you're doing now, but then step it up a notch. For example, if you are just doing the minimum of what we talked about, try to do the majority of tips that we talked about, and that should improve you to better. Okay, I think somebody said, hold on. Tips for people struggling with tardiness. Ooh. You know, that's a good one, because I am the one who's tardy for the party most of the time. I can tell you that what I do is I try to start getting ready earlier. Like it takes, I don't know why it takes me so long to get ready, you know, but I just try to get up earlier, or I try to start getting ready earlier than when it's time to go. That is one of the things that I truly struggle with. If anybody else has a tip for Isabella too, you can put that in the chat box. How do you approach a coworker wearing too much perfume? That's a good one. First of all, I would ask if your workplace has a policy about offensive odors, and offensive doesn't always mean, excuse the term, stinky, because I can wear my favorite perfume and think that I smell wonderful, but my colleague sitting next to me is probably about ready to pass out. First of all, I would say if you have a policy, and if you don't, you definitely want to start getting one. But if you don't, you want to try to take that person to the side and as gentle, as polite as you can, and say, you know, hey, I know that, you know, your cologne, you really like to wear perfume and it's nice, but it's just a little too much for me. And or you might say something like, you want to take into account there may be people here with respiratory issues or allergies. I would approach it in that way. Next, how to respond to a coworker who wants to complain to me about each other. Oh boy, that is a good one. I don't know who said that. Are you the manager or are you the supervisor? And that's why they keep coming to you, or? I would probably suggest, though, if they're coming to you to complain, I would ask them, like, have you talked to that person? I would suggest that they would have a conversation with each other and try to resolve their issue. You might also volunteer to be mediator, or get a neutral third party, get a neutral mediator to find out what the problem is, what the issue might be. Ooh, we have a coworker whose religion doesn't allow her to touch others. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of faiths and a lot of different cultures that we also have to take into account. What to do with someone in the same building but not in your work area who is rude and bossy? That is a good. Let's see. They're in the same building but not in your work area. Okay. If they're in the same building and not in your work area, I would probably just kind of steer clear of them if you can. If that is not an option, if that person, if you're not their supervisor or not a supervisor, I would probably talk to the person's supervisor and see if they could do something about that. Let's see, what to do when a group is being outwardly rude to you in front of others. Boy, again, that is something where you want to have a conversation, want to have an honest conversation. But I would, again, involve a neutral third party in that conversation if they're being rude, and let them know that they are being rude to you. And I would hope that if they're doing that in front of other people, that somebody else would step up and say something. Let's see, what else we have? Ooh, how should I respond to coworkers who want to complain? Oh, okay, got that one. Got that one. Okay, somebody says, a coworker is always grumpy in the morning, but I am a morning person and I'd like to say hello. Yeah, I know a few of those too. You know, not everybody is a morning person, and I get that. So you try to want to respect that person though. Again, I would just say good morning, and if they wanted to, say it back, that's fine. You know, talk to them maybe when they're ready to talk. Some people have to ease into the day. There are some people like you who are morning people, but there are some certain people who have to ease into it. So I would still say good morning or say hi. And if they didn't say it back, just don't take it personally. Just like, okay, well, when you're ready to talk, you'll talk. Let's see, what else we have? Oh, that was, let's see. Marie responds to Georgia's issue. Says, Georgia, you could let them know that you have sworn off gossiping. That's a good suggestion. Somebody says, how do you keep it personalized with staff when they hear to an extreme on a guideline or critique? Not quite. How do you keep it personalized with staff when they hear? Tina, I'm not quite sure I understand your question about that. Is this the person that you, are they one of those they hear what they want to hear when they want to hear it, or they're just opinionated on? If you could give me a little more feedback. Somebody says, how do I get my coworkers to see me differently? You want to appear to be as professional as you can. Try to be as friendly as you can. You want to maybe, I don't know, dress a little more professionally if you're not already. Speak professionally. I would kind of go that route because, and honestly, if you're doing that, and this is me personally, I notice that if I dress more professionally and I start speaking professionally, I start to actually feel it. And I think that people will perceive you as being more professional, or they'll see you differently. And on the flip side, too, unfortunately, you'll have some people who does she think she is? Why are you trying to be blah, 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 blah? But again, don't worry about those folks. Somebody said, what if the other person can do better but doesn't see that it's them? Yeah, unfortunately, if that happens a lot of times. There's always that person that thinks it's everybody else but them. If they can, if you can approach them with the issue and talk to them about it, you can do that, but it sounds like they won't even receive it or accept it when you do. So That's when I said earlier, you are only responsible for you. You can't change other people. When folks keep misspelling your name. Yeah, again, you might want to try, if you have business cards, give them the business card and maybe put on the back the pronunciation. Let's see. Let me see if I'm missing anything else. Okay. Yeah, Kimberly, you might just, because I can see that is a common, yeah, that's a common thing. My name is also Kimberly, and sometimes people will put an Ley. And I just tell them, I correct them and just say, hi, yeah, my name is, I'll spell it, it's not Ley, it's Kimberly. And I know that will probably get a little annoying for you, but if, you just kind of have to keep educating people. Lisa had a question. How do you create a more personalized work environment where emails are main communication from management? Yeah, Lisa, that's kind of a tricky one because in our workspace, we rely on emails a lot. But I sometimes, if I am in the same office with somebody, if I have emailed that person a couple times, I'll just get up and walk to their office. That may or may not always be doable, but yeah, sometimes it's unfortunately we cannot get around the emails. But again, if you can, if that person is there in the office with you, and try to get up and just say, hey, I know I just got tired of emailing, or I'll say, oh, I need to get more steps in today, so let me just walk over and talk to you. But yeah, sometimes email is necessary because again, as I said earlier, you need sometimes that written documentation. So you kind of have to know how to balance it. How to handle when a coworker's health issues or personal time off puts a burden on me and others. It's a very small office. Ooh. Yeah, that is a tricky one because you definitely want to be careful if they are having a health issue, and they may be protected with, by FMLA, or, you want to be very careful about that. Um, hmm. If it's their personal time off, you might want to say, hey, would help us a lot if you could maybe give us a little more notice when you want to take personal time or take time off. But yeah, that's kind of a tough one, especially when somebody's dealing with health issues. Let's see, who else? Yeah, somebody is asking if your supervisor doesn't provide subs. Okay. Somebody said, how do you suggest we learn more about working with people with learning differences? Maybe introducing a sensitivity training. Yeah, if you can do that, that would be great if you can do diversity or sensitivity training. Somebody had a suggestion for Kimberly with the misspelling. Says, I will point out that you spell your name differently and that you do not capitalize the first but the second letter of your name in your name. Perhaps if you could explain why, it would help people remember. Okay. Oh, Tina's librarian asked to spend some time at her public desk next time. Talk to her. She is upset because she doesn't belong in children's, and I want her to be at her desk all day long. So why bother being in children's? Yeah, that seems to be an issue where she's maybe not. You might want to maybe tell her why. Or again, if that's a policy, you might just want to remind her, hey, I need you to be at this place. I don't need you to be at this desk. I need you to be at this desk. And again, like I said, maybe kind of give her a why, you know. Hopefully that helped.
Someone says clarify the job description.
Ah, that's a good one. Yeah, clarify the job description. Yeah, if there is a certain amount of time that that person is expected to be at the desk, you might want to point that out to her. Oh, wow. Kimberly says, how would you feel if you reached out to shake someone's hand and they say back, at this moment, I cannot shake your hand. Would you chalk this up to them being sick? Or, and then at the end of the meeting, then shook your hand? Yeah, that's kind of odd. I was thinking at first, I'm like, maybe they were just trying to be kind, and if they were sick, they didn't want to pass their germs, but at the end, they did shake your hand. Somebody said, I would assume that they wanted to make sure that their hands were clean. It's not you, it's them. Yeah, somebody said, I would just move on, shrug your shoulders, move on, not a big deal. Don't sweat the small stuff. Ah, okay, Tina's elaborating. It's a change from children's assistant to a teen librarian, and it's hard for her to give up some duties. Okay, yeah, she sounds like she's having a hard time letting go. Tina, you'll just have to remind her that she is in a new position and maybe kind of say, well, this has a little more responsibility, so this is where I need you to be. Yes, you did hear a phone ring. That was me. That was my timer just to make sure that I didn't go over my time. And Tina says, talking about Kim's question, maybe they changed their minds to shake your hand or they were nervous. Oh, okay. Okay. Can you put the survey link? For those of you that are still here with me, my colleague is going to put the survey link into the chat box. Please, please, please go ahead and take a moment to complete that survey. Again, it helps us with our trainings and it helps us to come up with future trainings. Also, for those of you who need to get your library education units or your LEUs, I'm going to bring this up here in a second. I just wanted to give you some sources here. So there you go. If you do need to get a library education unit, an LEU, please click on it and you'll download it and then you can print that out. Somebody said, can you put the calendar link? Okay, we're going to get that for you right now. Just a second. Well, I would like to thank everybody. You guys were really good. Thank you so much for your participation today. Um, you have my contact information, so if you do have any questions or any further comments, you are certainly welcome to email me or contact me. I appreciate your patience today, and I'm glad that you could share a part of your morning with me. Copy of the PowerPoint. What I will do is go ahead and put the PowerPoint up on our slide share, and I will send the link out to you. And that way, if you want the PowerPoint, you are more than welcome to take a look. So if no one has any further questions, I just wanted to say thank you and appreciate your time today. And thank you to my colleague Courtney, who was Miss Manners for me today, for helping me out. So have a great